Hey, everybody. Special treat for you today. I have an interview with my friend Darryl Eberhart. He's my guest today on an interview where we talk about all sorts of conspiracy topics that people love, like secret societies, the Jesuits, the Knights of Malta, the Freemasons, history, all of these very important topics that are only going to get more and more important as time moves forward. Darryl is a former military person. He was in the military for 20 years. He has experience traveling in many different places, learning lots of languages, studying for the military, dealing with intelligence, studying the military industrial complex, studying history. So he's got a lot of experience. He's written a lot of articles on history of different topics like the Inquisition, the Jesuits' involvement in various political intrigues, the Knights Templar, Knights of Malta. In fact, I've used some of his articles in my presentations, like my Synagogue of Satan series. I believe I have some of his articles there. So he's done quite a lot of work. And I was actually surprised because the connection that happened with us was like really like unexpected. Like he emailed me unrelated about something that like he saw one of my videos or something. And I was like, oh, by the way, I've used your articles before, and it's kind of funny. So we ended up talking on the phone. I got to know more about his story and his situation. And I said, you know what, let's do an interview. Might as well do an interview because I think seems like God has arranged this to happen. So let's get it done. Now, Darryl is 78, though. And so he's an older gentleman, and he's had a lot of strokes. He had a lot of bad strokes. He's incapacitated. So he could only talk on the phone, which was a real technological challenge, believe it or not. Even in this day and age, in 2025, it's actually many hoops that you have to go through to be able to interview somebody on the phone while I'm talking on a podcast microphone through my computer using something like OBS or whatever else. So that was a real fun time. I tried several things, several options. It took me a few weeks to finally find the right device to be able to do that. And everything worked out great. I'm very thrilled with it. But nevertheless, that was quite an adventure. We talk about a lot of different topics in this interview, from U.S. history to the Jesuits to secret societies, communism, Zionism, all these various topics, really to give you a big picture view. Hopefully this will be very edifying. Hopefully it'll give you a big picture idea. It's not a super deep dive on any one particular topic. We just kind of really go through a lot of different major topics, and we just talk about them very casually, very open conversation. So hopefully it piques your interest. Hopefully it's something also that if you've never introduced anybody to these types of topics, you can introduce them through this interview. It'll pique their interest. Darryl also makes some good recommendations for various books that he's read and that he's used. So a lot of great information there. So either way, I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's edifying for you. And now onwards to the interview.
Yipper.
Darryl, how are you?
Yes, sir. Hanging in there.
Good. Me too. It's been quite the adventure to try to put this together, to put it lightly. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, and I don't know what control you have there, but give me as much volume as you can because I'm going deaf from flying on those C-130 Hercules transport aircraft
Let me see if I can.
My career.
Does it sound better now?
Yeah.
Okay. You can hear me pretty clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Well,
the problem is my old age. But anyway.
That's okay. I'm very happy to. How old are you, by the way? You said you're like 80 or something?
I'm 78.
78? Wow.
And I thought I was dead about 3 days ago. So
yeah, what happened with that?
I'm still here.
What happened with that?
My body was just totally shutting down. As it is, I'm paralyzed totally pretty much on my right side. That's the side the stroke hit. Right.
Wow. Do you have anybody to help you out?
My first cousin, Scott, picks up food and stuff for me and that. So he stops over about once every 2 to 3 days. But yeah, I could really use a full-time helper, but that's not in the works right now.
Well, I'm sorry that you're dealing with that. I'm really happy to get you on an interview to pick your vast knowledge and life experience on these very pressing issues that are coming up, right? We're going through the final pages of the book of Revelation, as far as I think. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that we're like in a 440 race or something. We're coming down to the last about 20 meters,
Yeah.
and if we want to finish, we better turn the heat on.
Yeah. Well, the last time I talked to you, you were surviving trick-or-treaters. So did you survive that?
I was surviving what?
You were surviving trick-or-treaters?
Oh, yeah, I didn't have my light turned on, so they didn't stop by my place
Oh,
because
good.
before um, the previous year, I had met them at the door, but I had somebody helping me.
Gotcha.
This year, I didn't have anyone to help me, and so I just kept my lights off, and they stayed away.
Yeah, that's what I usually do. And they still come. Last year I put some gospel tracks out, so hopefully a few of them got at least one or two of those.
Yeah, I did that a couple years ago. Some of Chick's tracks,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Halloween track, Chick publications.
I didn't know he had Halloween publications, like, or just regular, like the regular ones that he has, like with the Children's
They were
Crusades and everything.
they were tailored for Halloween
Oh, gotcha.
and for trick-or-treaters. Yeah, they were all in English. Now I would probably need to have a mixture of Spanish and English because, as you know, America is full of people from south of the border.
Yeah, we got a lot of them here in Arizona. You gotta speak Spanish if you want to do anything.
Got a bunch of Somalis up in Minnesota. I've got some friends up there. Um, yeah, Plano, Texas, New York City. A lot of places have gone Islamic, if you would.
Yeah, I think they're running the same operation they were running in Europe with all the Islamic invasions that they've done over the last few decades.
It smells like Emperor Charles V all over again.
Yeah. Well, listen, before we get started, do you want to lead us in a quick prayer and then we can get into it?
Sure.
Great.
Already mentioned it to my friend Phil Hudock down there in West Virginia that we were going to be on. So, dear Heavenly Father, in Christ Jesus' name, most high God, we're praying that this thing goes smoothly and that the name of the Lord Jesus Christ gets exalted and not us. So we just ask for your mercy and help this old 78-year-old to get through this. In Christ Jesus' name we ask it.
Amen. Well, you have you have a lot of knowledge, Darryl. And for the people that don't know who you are, do you want to maybe go through just briefly your background and your history and how you've come to know all the things we're talking about today, like with, the Jesuits and Freemasons and the Vatican and things like that? How do you know about all these things?
Well, I jumped right into the military straight out of high school because the Vietnam War was on. So I graduated in 1965, went straight into the U.S. Air Force because I scored really high on their language proficiency test. They gave me a choice. They said, hey, you really scored high here. How would you like to go to Yale University and take Chinese? And I thought, Chinese sounds like a pretty tough language. What else? And they said, oh, we've got Russian also. Would you like to go to Syracuse University or Indiana University, Indiana, Pennsylvania, not Pennsylvania, but Indiana, out in the state of Indiana. Would you like to go out there? And I said, I'll take Russian. And so they sent me up to Syracuse University to take basic and intermediate Russian. And then the Middle East wars broke out, and they noticed, the Air Force noticed they didn't have a whole lot of Hebrew linguists, and they didn't have a lot of Arabic linguists. And so they said, hey, how about some of you guys that just finished intermediate Russian, you want to go take Arabic? And I said, hey, yeah, I'll take another language. And so that's how I ended up getting basic and intermediate Russian and basic and intermediate Arabic, and funneled them into a lot of college credits that I used eventually to get my Bachelor's of Art from the University of Maryland in Russian, in the Russian language.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of took history, Russian history, the history of communism, etc., as my secondary or minor. But I got a lot of good training from the military, and I spent rounding things off, I spent about 12 years in the Air Force, and I finished up with 8 years in the Army to get my 20 years so I could retire with a military retirement. So I got a lot of a good training, and I got to I spent 6 years as a civilian, Department of Defense civilian, working at what we call the Puzzle Palace, which is the National Security Agency. So I spent actually 26 years total in the intelligence community, and all the time having, of course, the standard top secret special intelligence, but I had a lot of extra things added to it, extra specialty clearances. And that, because I was really good at my job, most people in the military service, they have analysts, they have reporters, and they have linguists. And I was good enough at my job, I could do all three. So I got to fly a whole lot of extra hours that they flew me, I think, 17 days in a row, which is
Wow.
illegal. It's illegal because they have to waive your flight, your crew rest. But I had my doctor in the Air Force was happened to be besides being from what I heard, rumors, he was into marijuana or something. But my flight surgeon waived to my flight crew rest for like 17 straight days. So I did what was really illegal in the Air Force, is to fly. What they were doing was illegally flying me without the crew rest.
Wow.
So I got to see a lot of the world. I used to fly as a Russian linguist, I used to fly all around the old Soviet Union, current Russia. And I think it never changed. It stayed communist. I don't think they really, they had a surface change. But Gorbachev used to brag, just to divert a second, Gorbachev used to brag that they had glasnost, which is openness, and perestroika, which is restructuring, but nothing restructured. All the communists stayed in power. One day they had a red T-shirt on with a hammer and sickle on it, and the next day they put a white T-shirt on, but it was the same guys. All the same guys stayed in power.
Yeah, that's what happened in Romania too.
Yeah. So it was just, as a matter of fact, at one of his meetings, Gorbachev told a bunch of the Communist Party top guys, he goes, don't get concerned of what you see about glasnost, openness, and perestroika, restructuring. That's all for Western consumption. Nothing's really changing. We're just pulling the wool over their eyes. And they'll sell us the rope that we need to hang them. And so, yeah, nothing really changed. I knew some Russian missionaries that went over there to Russia. As a matter of fact, I trained a family a little bit in Russian before they went over, and yeah, nothing really changed over there. And I know some other people that have gone over to Russia, including my one friend down in West Virginia. His daughter went over. So yeah, the more things appear to change, the more they stay the same behind the scenes. The same guys are behind the curtain, orchestrating events, creating wars. They love to have wars. It's a great means of depopulation. It fits the Jacques Cousteau idea of depopulation, and Margaret Sanger before him, which was a hero of Adolf Hitler and that. So, yeah.
Now, have you written any books? Because I know of your work from articles I've read. Like, you've written a lot of articles, and I've used some of your articles in some of the.
No, I've never written any books.
Oh, okay.
Despite being told by Johnny Cerrucci that I needed to write big books like him, but I just put out a couple old newsletters, as sort of like Thomas Paine during the Revolutionary War, putting out pamphlets or tracts.
Yeah.
And most people will not sit down and read a book like Vatican Assassins, which is 1,836 pages.
Right.
They just won't do it. But they might read a pamphlet or a handout or a little brochure of about a couple hundred words or whatever, much more readily than they'll sit down and read a long book, because attention spans have greatly decreased in our world today, as you know.
They certainly have, unfortunately. I think social media has a big part to play with that, with people consuming, 90-second or 60-second videos for their theology, unfortunately, or history.
Yeah, we live in a society, at least, and I was born in this country, so I can say this. We are in America, the United States of America, and I think you'll probably agree with me. We are largely historically challenged, history challenged.
Yeah.
I used to hang around when I went to some of my special conferences for the Russian language, intensive Russian language conferences with a lot of Germans. And I had Germans that spoke better English than most Americans that I know.
Yeah, I think in Europe
that's far more American history than Americans know.
Yeah, Europe.
So we're very, very history challenged, for a lack of a better term.
Europe is very multicultural in that regard. I think pretty much everybody, at least I don't know how it is now, but when I was going back there as a kid, everybody knew at least 2 languages, and they knew basic history, and I think they were just more aware. I think America is just so isolated, and we have this complex of, we're pretty much the only important nation on the earth, so everybody just...
That's the way the mindset is.
Yeah.
But like you said, when I went to those conferences, there were Germans and Swedes and others that spoke 3 to 4 languages minimum. Many people in Germany and Austria, they spoke French, German, and English pretty much all fluently. And so, yeah, we're language challenged, and we're history challenged for sure as a nation. We're very challenged on church history too. Most people know little to nothing about the Albigensian Crusades, the crusades that were launched. These were crusades launched by the Vatican against Bible-believing Christians, peasants. In southern part of France was going almost totally Christian, and because they cut loose a bunch of the crusaders coming back from the Middle East, and they cut loose a bunch of rapists and murderers from prisons, a very favorite tactic of the Vatican, the Papal Rome. They'll cut loose rapists and murderers and tell them, go have fun, guys. And they'll cut them loose against Bible-believing Christians. And many, 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 many Christians were burned at the stake, and including some good Roman Catholics who were getting a little off the reservation, as we shall say.
Yeah.
And John Hus and others, the Hussites came from them. There was, again, Americans are very largely ignorant of the history of Inquisition and the history of Papal Rome, the Vatican, backing fascist, Nazi dictators, take your pick. They backed about every single one, from Mussolini to Benito Mussolini to Adolf Hitler to Anton Pavlovich in Croatia, who did one of the most brutal I call it a religious genocide against the Eastern Orthodox Christians. And every century, it seems they go on a mass murder spree. So that's why it's important that we warn folks that Vatican Rome is not always the nice propaganda picture painted of the Pope that the white Pope that loves everybody and stands there and smiles really sweet for you, but behind his back he may be holding a dagger that he's getting ready to put in your back. But anyway,
the son of destruction. Now today there's a lot of Catholic revival, if I could put it that way, and of course with that comes a lot of the apologizing for things like the Crusades and the Inquisition. Obviously, part of the Crusades was defending against Islam and the things that were happening there, but a lot of people aren't aware of the extent. Two things: the extent to which the Inquisition killed lots of people from what I would say the 800s or something, maybe even before that, and the fact that it's continued. It hasn't really gone anywhere. It just rebranded. I think it's called the Dicastery of Faith or some department that they have now. But I know like Ratzinger was the last Grand Inquisitor supposedly. So what can you say about that topic with the Inquisition?
Well, the Inquisition never really ended, and even when Napoleon and one of his top generals, when they went in to France and other places, Spain, they were told, oh, there's nobody being tortured anymore, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the French generals, I don't remember his name, but he had his troops pour water on the floor, and where it started leaking below, where they went down to the basement, and it leaked even further down. And they found all of these prisoners down there that were still being tortured. So the Inquisition has lasted a long time. It never really died. Like you said, they changed the name of it. It was the Holy Inquisition, and then it was the Doctrine for the Propagation of the Faith, and et cetera. And I think Ratzinger held 5 different tours as the head inquisitor. They called him Joey Rat. Their Panzer Cardinal.
Yeah.
Like a Panzer, the Panther tanks and that
right.
for the Germans. Well, he was called their Panzer Cardinal, and he I don't know. I've seen a lot of pictures of him, and as one of my friends recently told me, if you wanted to scare somebody at Halloween, that he would have been the guy that you would want to send to the door. He just looked, evil,
Oh yeah,
for a lack of a better term.
he just looked like the necromancer or something in the crypt walking around.
Which they've been accused of having a lot to do with bones, and you know that
Oh, for
a
sure. Yeah.
lot of the old churches over in Germany always had bones buried beneath the altar, etc. So, and then that's where the term skull and bones came from.
Mm.
That was used at Yale University by some of the Bush family.
How many do you think the Catholic Church has killed with the Inquisition? Because there's a lot of estimates, and I don't know where I stand personally. I lean on the higher numbers. Obviously, I think that Rome has every interest to whitewash history. So, what in your experience and your reading, what do you think about that?
I would say clearly, easily over 100 million.
Wow, really that high?
I would think so. When you factor in, you see, they didn't keep really good numbers on the Bible believing Christians that they slaughtered, called the Waldenses, the Albigenses. Basically, as I said before, all of southern France was starting to go Christian, and when they brought the some of the Crusaders back, like I said, they emptied the prisons of the rapists and the murderers and these professional mercenary fighters, if you would, and cut them loose on all of these peasants, etc. Wiped out entire villages and towns, etc. I would say we're probably getting, when you consider Croatia in World War II just alone, probably, under 10 million, but still for that area, that's a lot of people. And then during World War II
Right.
and World War One, there's just a lot of, I guess the name of the game basically in wartime is rape, loot, plunder, and kill is as much as you want. And there are basically no restrictions, and it's not gentlemen fighting Marcus the Queensbury or whatever rules, etc. And boxing according to rules. It's a free for all.
Yeah, I
It's
guess
a free for all.
especially if you consider, in some sense, that the Inquisition hasn't gone anywhere, and all of these things are essentially connected. Because we know that the reason they do these wars, at least one of them, and the state of Israel, which we'll talk about today as well, all of these things are ultimately just part of the papal crusades to destroy the Jews, the Muslims, the Protestant, to destroy anybody who basically is not under the authority of the Pope. So in that sense, with all these things being connected, I guess I could see that number being as high as it is if we're including all those things.
Very clearly, is they play everybody off against everybody. They're going to play off Islam against the West, and they have been, and that's basically, well, there's just a lot of information out there. Chick Publications carries quite a bit about some former Jesuits, such as I'm trying to think of the guy's
Alberto
name,
Rivera.
Alberto Rivera.
Hmm.
Yeah. They put out a number of materials of the briefings he had, and that Cardinal Bay, etc. So BEA, it's written.
Yeah.
I'm not sure 100% on the pronunciation, but the fact of the matter is that the devil's goal is to drag as many people as he can to hell, and he hates human beings. And I like on many of your podcasts that you point out that the devil doesn't show up all the time. As a matter of fact, never shows up, it seems, wearing a devil's outfit with a tail, with a pitchfork.
Yeah.
and horns on his head. No, he shows up. He was one of the most intelligent creatures ever created by God, and he's carrying out his role very well, and that is to kill as many people as he can. And wars like World War One, World War Two, and I think we're in the first stages of World War Three. Well, they're good means of depopulation, and it goes back to the old Jacques Cousteau idea of getting this population down to what they call a manageable uh, figure, and so that's what we're looking at, is that these people are on a trip of a power trip to want to control everything, including where you go, when you go, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to see 1984 on steroids. On steroids. The book 1984. We're going to have a ministry of truth, and I've seen it just in the last couple of years on the internet.
Oh yeah.
And especially now, yeah, the way that the direction it's heading is they control the information pretty much that is made available to you.
Yeah, that's the future, and it's a crazy thing that the Bible warned about it such a long time ago, that we would come to this place, and now here we are. It's a crazy thought. Now, most Christians today are deceived one way or another on the end times, but I'd say a lot of them in the Americas, at least, are deceived by dispensationalism, or now seemingly preterism. So the thing that I've been trying quite a lot with a lot of my end times related content to do is to try to expose these things and to tell people the truth that both dispensationalism and preterism are Jesuit inventions. They're Jesuit inventions designed to take the attention off of the Catholic Church. So what can you say about that?
Yeah, they didn't like people looking at the papacy. So as Steve Wohlberg put out in his book, it's a good book, End Time Delusions. They wanted to get people not looking at the papacy as the Antichrist. So one route was to go with the preterism, get them looking in the deep past, at Nero or Caligula or somebody, take your pick, some guy way in the deep past is the Antichrist, and or futurism, where the Antichrist, he just comes at the end of time, right at the very last minute, and he shows up, and so again, they use both preterism or preterism, some people say, and futurism to get people's eyes looking in a different direction, to take the heat off of the papacy, to take the spotlight off of the papacy as the Antichrist, because that's one thing that definitely that the Protestant reformers didn't agree on everything, but they pretty much agreed, most of them, that the papacy was the Antichrist.
Yeah.
So they weren't looking for somebody at the very end time. Again, it was to get the spotlight off of the papacy, because way too many people were starting to put two and two together and say, hey, these guys are pretty bad. Maybe they might have something to do with the end time or the present time, but they're not just way in the deep past, and they're not just only going to show up at the last minute.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even when you look at the history of this stuff, you find that even Catholics in their various generations, especially as the papacy really revealed its teeth and claimed supremacy, superiority, even Catholics were realizing that this is not right. I know that there were many people when Vatican I happened in the Catholic Church who were repudiating the papacy's call for supremacy and all these things that they were claiming, and documenting all sorts of atrocities. These are Catholic authors of the papacy in the times before them. I know that in the Reformation there were the Jansenists, if you're familiar with those. That was an interesting sect within Catholicism that was a real thorn in their side. So,
there were a number of Roman Catholics throughout history who have uh, shown the light on the evil deeds of the Roman Catholic Church. One would have been what was in England was he was called a Lord Acton.
hmm,
Lord Acton pointed the finger. As a matter of fact, I think he came up with the famous quotation that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
oh, really?
Uh,
Interesting.
there was a journalist, Roman Catholic journalist, named, I believe, John Cornwell, and he wrote a book called Hitler's Pope, and
Right.
he did such a good job that the Catholic Church spent probably a decade or more trying to discredit him. But he was a world-renowned, award-winning journalist, and he said he thought he was going to whitewash Pius XII, Eugenio Pacelli,
Yeah.
that he would whitewash him and say he was a pretty good guy. He says the more I guess he had unlimited access to a lot of the archives. I don't think anybody has total access, but except maybe some people working directly for the Black Pope or the Jesuit Superior General. But the fact of the matter was that he says the more I looked and looked and looked and investigated, the more I found out that he was a Pius XII, Eugenio Pacelli. He was a Jew hater, big
Right.
time.
Yeah, he was. Like all the popes, I mean, the liberal ones, even the liberal ones like Francis, I think deep down inside they don't actually care for the Jews. They're just parading around a, false liberal view just to move the agenda along. But I think deep down inside they hate the Jews. They've always hated the Jews. And that's, by the way, that's another actually good segue into the next question, is that a lot of the Christians, they don't know their eschatology very well because they've been deceived by these various shenanigans. But the other side of it is history, and you have to know your history. And unfortunately, most Christians today don't really know their history. And the ones that do, especially now that Zionism is starting to collapse and Israel's being exposed, a lot of people just focus on the last 150 years or 200 years of history with obviously communism and Zionism, but they don't understand where these things come from. So I wanted to review U.S. history with you because you're very knowledgeable on that topic, and I want to fill in some gaps that a lot of people usually aren't aware of. So if we go from the founding of the United States with the American Revolution, can you walk us through from that point in time with the Jesuit connections to the Constitution, with Georgetown, with Maryland, with John Carroll, all these people, through the various subversions leading up to the Civil War with the presidential assassinations, obviously the central banking schemes that they were trying, till afterwards with the Federal Reserve, Jacob Schiff, and various other things that happened, so that people understand that it's not the Jews. The Jews and Zionism and everything else is really just one tentacle of a very multi-headed beast. So I want them to understand the connections to the Vatican, to the Jesuits, to Freemasons, if you want to talk about that as well. But basically just give us some history on the United States, and that, especially that early history, so they understand that the United States has been subjugated by the Jesuits for a very long time.
I think the assassination of Lincoln is a prime example of a massive Jesuit conspiracy to murder somebody, assassinate somebody. Very clearly, it was orchestrated by the Jesuits. As a matter of fact, Charles Chineke, or Chineke, some people say, who wrote a book called 50 Years in the Church of Rome.
Yeah.
He had conversations with Lincoln, and Lincoln has some pretty famous quotations that have fallen through the cracks that 99.9% of Americans no longer know about. And he said this bloody civil war, we see our land reddened with the blood of its noblest youth. That's totally the Jesuits. And he says, and people tell me, well, you should be more kind towards the Catholics and the Jesuit order. And he says, why I should be more lenient and welcome the guy that's going to split my wife's throat when he gets a chance and kill my children. He says, you don't grant religious liberty to those who want to come in and kill you.
Yeah.
And so there was so much evidence of Rome's involvement in the assassination of Abraham Lincoln that one of the generals that was on the military commission that tried, I think 12 of the people that were involved in planning the assassination of Lincoln, one of the guys was a brevet, meaning promotable, brigadier general. He was originally from Virginia, which became West Virginia, but his name was Thomas Malley Harris. And Thomas Harris wrote a book called Rome's Responsibility for the Assassination of Abraham Lincoln. A nun named Burke McCarty, if you try to look her up in the internet, it says she is a he. No, Burke McCarty was a former nun and wrote a book also about the suppressed truth about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. So a number of people, and I think that was published in 1924, a number of people published books detailing the massive Jesuit involvement in planning and carrying out the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. And of course, we know that later there were other presidents that were murdered by the Jesuits. You can probably make a case for about 6 to 8 of the U.S. presidents were offed or murdered, assassinated by the Jesuits. But very clearly Abraham Lincoln was, and it looks like they had their hand in the killing of the first openly Roman Catholic president, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, JFK, because he was asked, are you going to follow the dictates of the papal Rome, or are you going to follow the Constitution? And JFK says, I'm going to follow the U.S. Constitution. I'm not going to follow whatever Rome tells me to do. So there's a lot of debate about John Fitzgerald Kennedy, JFK, but I think he very, very much came into bad graces of Francis Cardinal Spellman, and Spellman asked to say, wanted to say mass in the White House, and John Kennedy denied him. So John Kennedy and his brother Bobby Kennedy, RFK, they did a lot to anger papal Rome, and I think they both paid a price for that angering of papal Rome.
A lot of people blame the Jews for JFK's assassination, especially, like I said, now that everything is coming out with, the Zionist Israel's infiltration of the U.S. government and all of the things that it's been doing, like the JFK assassination, like the 9/11, like the USS Liberty. So everybody has these glasses on that are just one color, and when they look at these things, like 9/11, like the USS Liberty, like the assassination of JFK, all they see is Jew, Jew, Jew. But what they don't realize is there's a greater connection, right? There are more parties in the world acting together, and achieving the desires of Rome ultimately.
For sure, is because for centuries, the Jesuits, as you know, have blamed the Jews for everything routine, and from the blood libel and everything that Jews run around and capture so-called Christian, or many times Catholic, I guess you would say, children, and hang them upside down and drain their blood, etc. The old blood, like I said, blood libel things, but they blamed the Jews for the bubonic plague, the Black Plague, and said that they were poisoning the wells and everything. Lucifer, Satan, hates the Jews. He hates mankind. He's not stupid. He's extremely intelligent. You've brought that out well in your podcast. He doesn't show up, and if we can use baseball as an example, American baseball, he just doesn't show up and throw you a couple fastballs, and he has a good fastball, but he throws you some wicked curves, curves that curve to the inside, curves that curve to the outside. So he's not going to show up and give you a bunch of just fastballs down the middle. He's going to try to deceive you every way he can, and using both the left and the right. And I think you've brought that out quite well on a number of your podcasts.
Well, what are the connections between the Jesuits and after the Civil War? I mean, the Civil War itself was fomented by, in my understanding, a complex, scheme between the Freemasons, the Jesuits, and anybody else involved. They fomented the Civil War. You can see pictures of these Civil War captains with their hand in their coats, like they're, Freemason, signaling and everything else. So there's definitely the occult that fomented that to destroy the United States from within. And then eventually, obviously, the solution to that is to indenture them with the Rothschild central banking scheme. But again, people think that that's just the Jewish thing. People don't understand the Jesuit connection to the Rothschilds, the Jesuit connection to the Freemasons, central banking, all these things. I mentioned Jacob Schiff. So what could you say about that whole process after the Civil War with the United States?
I think when you look at a number of these wars, World War I, World War II, etc., you're going to find a lot of Jesuits who are advisors, like Pietro Tacci Venturi, for like Mussolini, Hitler, etc. You find lots and lots of Knights of Malta, Jesuit-controlled Knights of Malta. And that crossed the you'll see that on a lot of wealthy, powerful European families. They have the Knight of Malta symbol or cross, the Knight of Malta cross. As a matter of fact, some of the awards in that were handed out during World War I and World War II by the Germans used the Maltese cross.
That's right. So they did.
They're all over the map, and it's hard to find a war. It's like I told a number of folks in the past. If you go to a murder scene and you're a good detective, you're going to look for fingerprints or footprints. And throughout history, the Jesuits have left their fingerprints and their footprints all around the place, especially like the Lincoln assassination is just a classic example. And again, two different people within a couple hundred years had written books about the Civil War. Burke McCarty, who was a former nun, wrote the book about the suppressed truth about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. And then you had Brigadier General Thomas Malley Harris, who also wrote Rome's Responsibility, for the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. And he sat on the board that interrogated and tried 12 of the conspirators. So the guy knew what he was talking about. And again, and I go back to what Abraham Lincoln, he said that this bloody war you can lay at the feet of the Jesuits. And of course, the Jesuits, through their controlled John Wilkes Booth, much more involved in the assassination planning and coordinating things, was John Harrison Surratt, the son of Mary Surratt, who actually helped do some of the lower level planning, but they were all controlled by Jesuit priests or a regular Roman Catholic priest. But yeah, there a priest named B.F. Wiggett. And I've noticed that one of the favorite tricks of the Jesuits is that they changed the spellings of the names. So that over the years, if you try to look up certain things, you won't find them.
That's interesting.
Wiggett's been spelled about 30 different ways, and etc. But there were so many people involved in helping John Harrison Surratt escape to England, and then he goes down and ends up being in some of the Pope's bodyguard, the Zouaves, or however you pronounce that. Zouvres or whatever, the Zouaves. He ends up being one of the what was called in those days the Pope's bodyguard. So yeah, they're all over the map, and it's, again, like I said, you go to any crime scene, you're going to look for fingerprints, and you're going to look for footprints, but you're also going to look for cui bono, who benefits from the wars, who benefits from the assassination of William of Orange type, or I think I think they assassinated a couple King Henrys. They assassinated a couple Tsar Alexanders. I think Tsar Alexander 1 and Tsar Alexander 2. I'm not sure, but I know a couple of them they killed and assassinated. So their middle name is war provokers and assassinators of heads of state. That's what I read the middle name of the Jesuits as being, is that they're always behind the scenes conniving. And the word itself, Jesuit, in a number of languages, including Russian, it means somebody who's sneaky, deceptive. And it's come to mean that, I would imagine, in other languages. But in Russian, it means that a sneaky, deceiver, deceptive person.
What's the word in Russian?
Yeah, you caught me there.
I'll have to look it up.
Because I have, like I said, a bunch of my brain, like a electronic panel or something, got fried whenever I had the strokes. I used to have probably about 50 to 100 verses in Russian, Old Church Slavonic, memorized.
Wow.
And I still remember some of them, but there's a few years that are missing, basically. Entire years got wiped out my memory board. And so I'm lucky I've got as much memory left as I do. I used to give a lot of interviews in the old days, probably about almost 3 decades ago. I had my website destroyed. I had my webmaster was fairly young, and he died a very strange death. He kept putting my website up whenever it would be knocked down by the Jesuits. The Jesuits basically took over the website and took over the domain name when my webmaster died under very suspicious conditions. He was Canadian, and they just have attacked me what shall we say, unmercifully throughout my entire short time here on earth of 78 years. They've come after me big time because they do not like people to drag their evil works to the light. And of course, we're told in Ephesians 5:11, have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them, expose them, drag them to the spotlight. And that's what I hope we're doing today. And well, it's not because we hate Catholics. It's not because we hate, but we do hate people that do very evil deeds, like having a religious side, a religious genocide like they had in Croatia, where I believe it's up to close to 1 million, but at a minimum 700,000 Serb Orthodox Christians were brutally murdered by skinning them alive, by burying them alive, by cutting their eyeballs out while they were still alive. These people are not just content to just shoot you and dispatch you quickly. No, they have to come up with many different ways of torturing you to exact the greatest amount of pain. And we see a lot of that today in some of the stuff that goes on at the Indian reservations, etc., in Canada. And that is just, there's just so much evil that's out there. And a lot of it is coming from Papal Rome, and one of their favorite tricks is to blame everything on the Jews. But we need to look at secret societies, and Freemasonry definitely was set up for to get the Protestants, although they have a Catholic version, the P2, or whatever. Because they'll say one thing out of one side of their mouth, and another thing out of another, and say, "Oh, we're against Freemasonry," but they got their own P2 Freemasonry on the Catholic side, and a lot of the stuff for the Protestants to get control of them was created through Freemasonry.
A lot of people don't know that, and I think that would help them get out of this institutional, lukewarm church model that everybody's in, because all of these pastors are secret society members one way or another. They're infiltrated, they've been bribed, they've been threatened, they have a knife through their throat, and they're just doing the agenda.
Yeah, they love to use either the carrot or the stick. They'll threaten you or your family members on the threatening side, the stick side, and on the carrot side, they'll offer you all kinds of money and get you to pull away and go to work for them, whether it's people working on the manuscripts of the American Bible Society, which, by the way, they love to use Roman Catholic manuscripts, but there's certain manuscripts that they hate the most, and a lot of them underlie the true Bibles, and they came up with their own Vulgate, etc., in Latin, as opposed to the true Latin Vulgate. So they're masters at deception, and you brought that out well in your podcast. They're not just going to throw you, like I said, an outside curve. They're going to throw you an inside curve. They're going to throw you a super fastball. They're going to hit you from, as you brought out in your many podcasts, they're going to hit you from the right and the left. They want you to concentrate, either hate the left, hate the right, but not to see that the devil's behind the whole thing. Lucifer, Satan, and his Jesuit. I think the Jesuit order has served Lucifer, Satan quite well.
Yeah, I think they definitely have accomplished their purpose. I think the Protestant Reformation is practically dead. I think that people are ready within the next couple of years to reunite with Rome, and I think that you will see a resurrection of this visible church type of situation where you've got ecumenism and synthesis between the right and the left. You've got everybody under this religious delusion. They've done a swell job as far as that goes. They've accomplished their purpose. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think they want to go back to, like I said before, they want to go back to the time of Charles V, Emperor Charles V, Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, which was never holy. It was a very loose federation of members, but a lot of European countries under people like Prince, they called him Prince, play on words, Metternich, but they called him Mitternacht, Midnight, Prince Midnight, that schemed behind the 30 Years' War, etc. And again, the assassination of a number of U.S. presidents, but they especially seem to hate the United States Constitutional Republic. From the very beginning, there were people like Lorenzo Ricci, who some people like F. Tupper Saucy in his book Rollers of Evil believed faked his death and came to the U.S. to manage things. And he was very close with Ben Franklin, and who's not really one of the nicest guys if you study very much about him. But they were in control of a lot of the stuff. And you see it today. I was stationed in Maryland a number of times, and his name was Ricci, R-I-C-C-I, pronounced like Ritchie, R-I-T-C-H-E-Y, like Ritchie Highway down there in Maryland, etc. But the Carroll family was very involved at the beginning of the country and setting the country up. Bishop Carroll was I believe, a Jesuit bishop, if I remember correctly. But very clearly, they had their fingers all over the United States founding, and I think. When you start looking at supposedly a supposed Protestant country, and almost all of the Supreme Court justices are Roman Catholic, except for one who's Jewish, and then you look at my cousin and I both, when we were in the Army, we noticed the same thing. All of the top generals in the important combat fighting things like your special forces, your paratroopers, your airborne divisions, etc., your intelligence units, etc. They're all Roman Catholic. How does that happen in an allegedly so-called Protestant country? Because they either compromise people, scare them off, or bought them off. But they basically took all the levers of power. And I think F. Tupper Saucy in his book Rollers of Evil really brought out how almost every key committee in both the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives in the Congress, almost all of them were Roman Catholic. Now, how does that happen, again, in a country that's allegedly predominantly Protestant? Because wave after wave after wave, they're using the same thing now that they used 50, 100 years ago, is massive immigration of Roman Catholics into the country. And I think America has already gone Catholic. Do you have any feelings on that?
Yeah, I have a lot. I have had a lot of videos on that topic specifically because people are so disillusioned with, especially now, as of the time that we're talking right now, I think we're seeing a very interesting phenomenon happen in the conservative right of America, where America was very much dialectical between the extreme left, right, with Biden being just a buffoon, obviously a stage puppet. They did that on purpose to make people so frothing at the mouth for MAGA to basically push Trump over the edge. And then now it seems like they're really exposing Trump as, just as deep state as everybody else, with the intention to create a rise, I think, for the solution, which is, of course, the solution has to be a theocracy, whether in form or function, I don't know, but there have to be a monarchical style of ruling with Catholic social teaching as the foundation and the basis for these things. And you start seeing all of these conservative influencers. In fact, I had a recent episode, very short video, about 30 minutes, how all of the major people in conservative politics, whether it's Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, all of these people who are very big names, Russell Brand. I mean, Jordan Peterson's not Catholic yet, but I fully anticipate him to be Catholic pretty soon. He's married to a Catholic. He's very, Orthodox friendly. He's wearing jackets with like icons on them. I mean, he's practically a Catholic in my opinion. But all of these people, like literally, I covered like 20 different major people in the news. They're all Catholic. They're all Catholic. And it's like, okay, that should tell you something. If they were all Jews, I mean, I think people would just say, I don't want to be conservative anymore. They would just give up their conservatism. But the fact that they're Catholic, nobody seems to put one and one together and realize that Catholicism is not, like you said earlier, the founding fathers realized that if they were tolerant to Catholicism, then the Jesuits would come in and abuse this religious freedom thing that was part of the United States. They would abuse that to make Catholicism the dominant paradigm, and then they would enforce a theocratic state, which is exactly what's happening. We're literally watching that unfold because now this democratic experiment has come to an end, and they've infiltrated all the right positions of power. The Supreme Court, the cabinet around Trump is mostly Catholic. They're just waiting for the right word to flip on the Jews. I mean, it's really something to see that and to have the breadth of history to look at.
Yes, and then they have their propaganda people out there like Candace Owens, etc., in the media that are really pushing Roman Catholicism, militant Roman
absolutely.
Catholicism.
Nick Fuentes is frothing at the mouth. Now, he has some good information. Like, he has some good things, and this is why these things are so dangerous. These people have some decent information on the corruptions of government and whatever, let's say Zionist Israel. But the problem is that they're leading people. Nick Fuentes has openly stated that he wants a Catholic fascist state. He thinks that's the good thing. That's what we need. We need a Catholic fascist state. And if you're not Catholic, ex ecclesia nolum salus, no salvation for you. He's literally frothing at the mouth for papal supremacy. And people are like, oh my gosh, so wonderful. And let's go after what he's saying. So it's truly astounding. People don't know their history, and I think that's what the devil banks on because, like I said earlier, the people that do know history, they only know like 2 or 3% of the Earth's history. They don't look at what the Bible has to say. They don't look at previous empires. They don't look at, secret societies or the mystery religion throughout time. They don't look at any of that, and so they have no context for what's happening today.
Yeah, that's for sure. And they're in a full court press.
Yeah.
And those of us who are trying to expose the evil, we need to be in a full court press too. And like I said, if you compare it to a 440 meter race or something, we're down to the last 100 meters, and we better pour it on because I believe they're pouring it on right now because they're wrapping things up and they want to bring in their, whatever you want to call it, a new world order. It's not new. It's global control, whether it's communism, whether it's fascism. It doesn't matter. They'll use both the left or the right. It doesn't matter to them. It's control is what it's all about. They create the chaos, ordo op chaos. They want they'll give you the problem, and they have the at least one or two or three maybe solutions that are all going to work for their benefit, and they'll toss all three of them out or whatever at the same time, so that you have something to pick to jump on your horse and charge at the windmill, but you're not realizing that they're providing the horse, and that they're providing the lance, and they're providing the windmill, and they just want you to go off on a tangent. They want the chaos created that's going to come out of like a world war, or out of a massive famine or whatever. Oh, by the way, of course, famines and pestilence and war all go together, don't they? Because we saw that in World War I and World War II. When you start destroying a lot of infrastructure and everything, and lots of people are dying on the battlefield, and you're dropping bombs on major cities, like happened in Germany and in World War II. More people were killed by the fire bombings, by the way, than were killed in the atomic blast, allegedly.
Yeah, I don't really believe that nukes are real, but I do think they bombed the crap out of the Japanese, and because they had, remember those Jesuits that were there in Japan, and like was it Nagasaki? They supposedly they were protected by the Virgin Mary, quote unquote.
Yeah, and the Jesuits have a love affair with the Far East.
They do.
No one's ever explained that to me exactly why, but they went into Japan. The Japanese, a number of the Japanese really hated the Jesuits, and were very leery of them. And as well, the world's people should be, because wherever the Jesuits have gone, they try to enslave people, like they did the Guarani Indians in the Paraguay area. And that, of course, that's one of the areas that, like Pope Francis was allegedly from, was the guy that became the later on the white pope. But again, we shouldn't get hung up on the black pope, white pope, gray pope, or anything of that. The stuff is all evil, and I would say the whole system, and I think you would agree with me, is it's corrupt and perverted as it can be.
Yeah, I agree, and that's the problem that most people don't see. They only see one aspect of it. They don't see that it's a worldwide satanic system, and that satanic system controls both sides. Like with communism, actually, the fact that you mentioned the Guarani Indians, a lot of people don't realize. Everybody, for example, thinks that like the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, or whatever, communism in other places like China, that the Jews solely are the ones involved. And of course, the Jews were involved with communism, but communism comes from Jesuitism. It comes from the papacy, with its Jesuits doing the Guarani Indian reductions for 150 years, and basically enslaving these people and apportioning to each one what they thought. And then once that was done, then they supposedly fed Karl Marx his ideas, and basically helped to promote communism in other places. So what do you have to say about the Jesuit relationship to communism?
I would say that you can go back and find a bunch of communists that were either outright Jesuits or had Jesuit advisors. And one of the primary examples would be Fidel Castro. If he's
wasn't
not
he from a papal
Jesuit,
family too? Wasn't he from like a papal family? Castro was like I forget what papal family he's from. Like he's supposedly like from one of the papal bloodlines.
I know that the Trudeau family is supposedly connected to Fidel
Trudeau's his son,
Castro there.
illegitimate son. I
But
forget with who,
very
but
clearly you can see on Cuba that wherever communism goes, there used to be a song, wherever rosemary goes, flowers grow, or something, wherever my rosemary goes. Well, wherever the Jesuits go, whether it's communism, fascism, or whatever, evil grows. Whether it's evil governmental systems that are top-down control, and the guys at the very top have all the power, and they can get away with murder. They can get away with murdering you on television, and have it on film, and nobody holds them really to account. So again, they can get away with murder, rape, whatever. You pick your crime, they can do it and get away with it, including massive genocide that happened against Native Indians in both the United States of America and in Canada. So much has been written about that. As a matter of fact, I have a book. My cousin jokes with me and says that I have more books than the library in my hometown. I've got it seems hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books, but I have a lot of books that were written about the Jesuits by Spaniards, by Brits, by Germans. A lot of people have written throughout, including an American named Samuel Morse wrote a book about
right.
The evils of the Jesuits, and the warning about. He even went to Rome and talked with one of the cardinals over there, and they basically told him, "We own you, people. We will own you in the future through immigration, everything else. You belong to us, America. So get used to it." And they were very hoity-toity about it. They were in your face. We control the world, and get used to it. And so they're obnoxious. There's the point of being obnoxious in thinking that they're God's gift to mankind when they're the greatest curse to mankind. Can you think of a group of people other than the Jesuits who have been more of a curse to mankind? I can't.
Well, Helena Blavatsky said that they use more black magic than any other group in history. So considering she was worshiping the devil and she said that, I'd say that's a pretty big indictment.
Yeah, the word sorcery and everything. Pharmakia.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just through a lot of different things. The idea is to make money and kill anybody you want to kill, and rape anybody you want to rape, and do whatever you want. They basically they're carrying out the devil's agenda, and they're expert at it, and they've been practicing it for a long time. So we're not going to, like I said, the devil doesn't show up wearing a red suit with a pointy tail or something. No, he shows up as you've brought out in a lot of your podcasts, as an angel of light, or that he's going to be the real good looking evangelist or whatever, controlling him, et cetera, et cetera. And he's going to come at you through the left, the right, but never telling you the truth. He's always going to give you a little bit of truth mixed in, like rat poison. Rat poison is, I think, about 80% nutritious, good for the rat, but it's the 2% that's the poison the arsenic, which was one of the favorites that the Jesuits used to use. They were masters of poison, by the way.
Yeah.
They were masters at poisoning people.
I think
Using
Thomas Jefferson and John Adams were poisoned on the same day, right? July 4th. They both were killed on the same date. They were poisoned by the Jesuits.
Yeah, I think you brought that out on at least one of your podcasts.
Somewhere in there. Now,
because I do remember seeing. By the way, I've watched probably about 30 hours worth or 40 hours, maybe more,
wow,
of Tudor's podcast, and he's got a lot of good information in there. And again, warning you, don't always jump on the left or right paradigm or whatever. Don't always keep your eyes open, because like I said, the devil's not always going to throw you a fastball down the middle. He's going to throw you a inside curve, an outside curve, and et cetera, et cetera. He's a master at tricking people, at deception. And when Jesus Christ was asked what would be the sign of the end times or whatever, he basically summed it up in one word: deception.
Yeah.
And if the Jesuits aren't the masters of deception, I don't know who is.
Yeah, it's true. It says that people are going to marvel at the end of time. They're going to marvel. They're going to have peace and safety. They're going to eat and drink and give in marriage and all of these things that are not something you do when you know that you're being oppressed by a dark, atheistic government or a Zionist, Noahide law government. You marvel and you celebrate and you do whatever when you think that you are in a world that is the will of God, that is having on the surface freedom of conscience. But of course, we know that there's no freedom of conscience for those who are going to be refusing to participate in this religious system. So I think people don't realize the importance of that deception. That's the issue, is the deception. It's not going to be something that's obvious. If everybody's figuring it out, then that's not the final trick. It's not the final boss.
Yeah, and watch out for the sugar coating and et cetera, et cetera. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is.
Now,
it probably is.
There's right at the time of this discussion, which we're having towards, middle and end of November here, there's a lot of things happening with the economy. And of course, we know, like you said, that these are problem reaction solutions. These are ultimately dialectics designed to introduce the final system, which was going to be digital. They're going to have digital money. They're going to have a digital system, a digital ID, social credit. We know that that's where it's headed, because they need to have that in order to enforce obedience like never before, to have a digital inquisition. That's what we're headed towards. But people don't realize that previous situations, like the stock market crash of 1929, of the 80s, of even recent things like the 2008 crisis, the Federal Reserve, that all of these things have connections to the Jesuits, because they're always the ones controlling the central banks through the Rothschilds, through the various Templar systems. What can you elaborate on that whole connection between, like I said, all of these events like 1929, the 1980s, the stock market crashes, the Federal Reserve being created, and the Jesuits? Because I'll tell you one thing, I believe the Jesuits are the ones who created Bitcoin. I think they created Bitcoin because nobody still to this day knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is, the guy who supposedly, programmed Bitcoin or whatever. And yet this anonymous person has the most amount of Bitcoin, and all of these institutions are going 100% towards Bitcoin, and Trump is going towards Bitcoin. So obviously to me, I'm like, this is a Jesuit creation. And I know that there's a lot of involvement with them in those other events. So what can you tell us about the Jesuit connection to central banking, to these various crashes in the past, to subjugate countries, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, I think it was Meyer Rothschild that said give me control of the banking system, and it matters what, no matter whatever else is out there, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, whoever's in power doesn't
Um,
matter. Just give me control of their money.
yeah, and that's true. And again, when they print the money, which is almost worthless because of inflation, etc., um, basically they write the tickets. They control the people, and sad. It's sad, but it's true. It's unfortunate, but most people can be bought off. They're easy. They'll either, like I said, use the carrot or the stick. They'll threaten you, or they'll buy you off, and they'll give you all kinds of extra goodies, etc. But no. There's been a lot of people that have covered the banking end of it. Eustace Mullins, you can go down the list, but I think the best one that shows the best book for showing the total control of everything, all of the key positions in government, was F. Tupper Saucy's book, Rollers of Evil, which may have been why he was on the lam for many years. And while he was, I think he wrote Miracle on 34th Street or something. Anyway, but he wrote a number of books. But the best book I believe that he wrote was Rulers of Evil. And I'm very thankful that there's a lot of good books out there, and there's a lot of good podcasts out there like yours that are trying to wake people up to the reality of watch out. There are evil people out there that like to get into key positions or put people into key positions of government and banking, etc., that are going to steer events the way they want it to be steered, and that they love chaos. And we have to take them at their word when they say order ob chaos. They create the problems. They create the and then they create the solution. They may give you 3 or 4 or 5 different solutions coming from the left, the right, and every other direction. But yeah, we have got to get continue through the podcast and through what little written word we can get out. It's getting harder and harder, from what I understand, to find publishers unless you self-publish or whatever, even a small book or whatever. But
yeah, that's the way to go these days, is to do self-publishing. I would say it's easier than ever to self-publish, so there's that. I think that's an advantage, but you have to have people to you have to have an audience. I think that's the hard part. When you are writing anything, you have to have people that want to read your writing, obviously, and that's the hard part. You can publish a book, but whether somebody's going to read it or not is a different story.
And it looks like daily that they're taking more and more control through AI and other means, but they're taking more and more control of the internet. And I see it on the newer computer I got here recently, that almost everything steers you in a wrong direction. It steers you into something that's fantastic, something that's sci-fi, something that's titillating or whatever, that's going to get you interested in some movie stars or something. They always have you steered down the wrong path. Entertainment is what media is set up for, pretty much. Not informing people with the truth, but most of the media is set up to steer you down the wrong path, and you can just take your pick. They've got anything that you want, you can find on the internet.
Yeah, and now that all these machines have AI assistants and AI little chatbots on them, it's like having a Jesuit in your pocket, where they used to have people don't realize that the Jesuits had the first, basically a spy system with in Europe with the confessionals where they would listen to people's confessions and all the monarchs' confessions, and they would use that intelligence network to basically plan their shenanigans. And now with AI, and AI is on everybody's phone, it's on your computer, it's listening to everything you do, and it's saying, "Oh, here, let me help you with this, let me help you with that." Pretty soon, they're
Yep.
going to index all that information on. I'm sure they're probably already doing it, but you're going to have a social credit score and everything. It's just people don't realize that history is repeating all the time.
And I see it on my computer. It says, "Let us help you with this. Let us help you with this. Let us."
Yeah, no thanks.
I turned off the voice thing. I don't want to hear the voice thing. I don't need somebody with a nice voice telling me what I need to do, or how I need help, or this, or I need help in writing this or something. No, they're not going to give you uh, the real help that you need, and that you're going to get from studying God's word
That's
and
right.
learning from like the Book of Proverbs and that. That's a lot better than anything that the Jesuits have out there to offer you in the form of entertainment.
You mentioned dialectics of order out of chaos, and certainly that's flavor of the game all the time. Especially, I would say, since 9/11 and with COVID, there is an increasing amount of control and surveillance and inching their way into people's lives. But people don't realize that we've been in a state of emergency. You might know about this much better than most people, obviously, because of your military background. But from what I have heard from different people of different research backgrounds, we've actually been in a state of emergency in the United States for, I mean, different people have different timelines, but for many, many decades, for like at least 100 years or so. And that supposedly has allowed them to do all sorts of things that maybe they wouldn't normally be allowed to do. Do you know anything about that with the state of
Yeah,
emergency?
I mean, when I left the Army, I left in 1985. And very clearly, they were talking about what they called Airland Battle 2000. They were talking about basically fighting a world war on two different fronts at the same time. Sort of like, where we had during World War II, we had a Pacific and a European theater, they called it, of warfare. Um, they were talking back then that they were going to have total control of the weather, which they do.
Yeah.
And if you've seen anything by Dane Wigington, that about all the weather, I guess you would call it experimentation, but they've basically, since at the end of World War II, they had all kinds of cloud seeding stuff. As a matter of fact, I think they flooded a town in England very badly with cloud seeding and stuff. They were doing all of this stuff way back at before the end of World War II. They were getting stuff ready. The Japanese were experimenting a lot with biological warfare, etc., and they used prisoners of war to do that. But right now, they're fomenting chaos in a number of different places. You got Taiwan and what I call Red China, Communist China, the Philippines. Just as the Japanese tried to take all of Asia, or most of it, in World War II, China hopes to step into the power vacuum or whatever when the U.S. is gone. And the U.S., I think that the plans have already been made to kind of do away with the aircraft carriers, and that they're basically floating death traps. But we've got usually a couple of them in the Mediterranean at any given time. Couple carrier fleets, what they call, and they're setting up World War III if we're not already in it, because remember Pope Francis says we're in World War III or the early stages of it. So there you have a voice that speaking from inside knowledge, like an insider on a stock market or something. Well, yeah, they've got all kinds of plans for these for warfare. That's why the little bit of stuff that's on my MSN, whatever it is, computer thing from the what you would call the left, but it doesn't really matter. There's not, you, like I said, you pointed out it very well. It's not the left right paradigm. Watch out, because they're mixing all kinds of stuff in it. They want to keep you confused. They just want to keep you like a mouse or a what do they call them? A hamster on a
keep
wheel
you running
or something. They just want to keep you busy, and they want to keep you entertained, and they don't want you to really do any deep thinking. They don't want you to do any deep analysis. They don't want you to do any of that. They just want you to buy their little 30-second soundbite and then walk off thinking that's the entire picture for say the problems between Japan and China, etc. They just want you to take a little soundbite and don't really investigate and don't look behind the curtain. I think most of the people that are over 50 years old probably saw the movie The Wizard of Oz.
Right.
And interesting, a lot of Oz, O-Z, ounce, but anyway, a lot of interesting stuff there. But there's a lot of other things going on, and we have to look for the man behind the curtain, and we have to see what's going on behind the scenes, who's really pulling the levers and stuff. And for the most part, most of the people in the world have throughout history looked at the Jesuits as dangerous puppet masters that are pulling the strings on a bunch of the people that are out there in the banking, that are out there in the intelligence community, et cetera, trying to set up their next scenario for the next event that they have planned. And I think very clearly they've got World War III on their mind for sure, because I've never seen so much stuff on the internet about war, what happened in especially World War II. Well, mostly World War II is what you see a lot of the stories. What happened whenever the Russians eventually overran what would have been called East Germany, Prussia, and that, whenever they hooked that over, etc. And then you see a lot of the stuff about the history of the Turks, the Ottoman Empire, and the Mohammed and his crew. And of course, again, you have a former Jesuit priest, Alberto Rivera, that wrote a book, a couple books, but the comic book series was put out, comic style written books about how the Jesuits created Islam. So there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of stuff out there that's going to make people angry, that's for sure. There's a lot of stuff out there that pushes you into one corner or into another, but they don't want you really investigating it like serious investigators should. They don't really looking behind the curtain, and they don't want you to identify. They want you to identify the usual characters that they throw out there as the bad guys.
The
but
Grabbler.
They don't want you to. They don't want you to look at the Jesuits who are the puppet masters.
Yeah, they want you looking at the grabbler, shaking his hands, rubbing his hands greedily. You know who the grabbler is?
Like I said, I've got probably on my, I've got a, probably just on the Jesuits alone, I've got a couple 100 books at least. A lot of them old digital, optically scanned reprints and stuff. And a lot of that stuff is disappearing. You can't find them anymore. You cannot find a lot of those books anymore. And your people like Samuel Finley Breeze Morse, Samuel F.B. Morse, and that warned about the Jesuits, those voices over the centuries become fewer and fewer and fewer. They become less and less and less. Less people are out there warning, and more people are out there on the treadmill that they set up for you, or the hamster wheel. You're just running around doing circles and stuff, and they want you to be semi-happy in your McDonald's hamburger or whatever, and poisoning you with all kinds of stuff, whether it's in the atmosphere or whether it's in the food, etc. And you do a lot of good stuff on health. You know that they're trying to destroy basically any common sense that's out there. They want to destroy, and they want you to be a little robot that visits McDonald's every day or something.
Yeah, if you're toxic and inflamed and slow with your brain, then you're much easier to manipulate. That's why I'm very passionate about good health and good health principles and helping people live healthier lives. I think that's important, especially in the world that we live in today. It's just such a toxic world that you can't give them an inch. You know what I mean?
Did I lose you?
No. Did you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I didn't hear the last thing you said.
I said you can't give them an inch because they're you're always trying to manipulate your decisions. So you want to be as sharp and healthy and fit as you possibly can. Obviously, we don't put our trust in a dying body, but we, at the same time, we have only one body that God gave us. So I think it's important to take care of it as much as you can.
Yeah.
What do you think of this Charlie Kirk situation?
I think Charlie Kirk, and I'm not recommending the guy's website, but I went up to a guy's website that had really slowed down a lot of the pictures there. It sure looks to me like Charlie Kirk was executed by his own security team. That's what it looks like to me. I looked at and I'm not an expert, but my friend down in West Virginia is. I had him look at that, and he's looked at a lot of stuff, the photography and that. And of course, you can Photoshop a lot of things, but very clearly it looks like Charlie Kirk was executed by his security team, the guy in the brown shirt, whatever. But the thing is that Charlie Kirk hit in some areas that they didn't like. I think that the way his wife acts and that, her behavior is very strange.
Yeah.
But the whole thing to me looks like almost like a psyop type thing. But some of the stuff they threw out to try to make the explanation fit, supposedly a sniper or something. No, I don't think. I know a little bit about ballistics, not a lot, but I was in the military for 20 years, and Charlie Kirk was not shot with a standard .30-06 type bullet or
Yeah,
something,
no way.
or there would have been a massive exit wound or whatever.
Yeah.
And no, there's just so many holes in that, and people that are better than me at that type of stuff, photography and everything, have looked at that and say that no, the official narrative, as often given, does not fit. It does not fit. It's like trying to put a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah,
Not going to work.
I was doing a lot of digging because it was such a major event, and it seems to me that he was planning on converting to Catholicism because it's funny because the episode I did to cover the news before he got shot, the last one before that, I said that Charlie Kirk would have to convert. He would have to convert or he would lose everything. I didn't think he was going to get killed. I mean, it makes sense to me now because they're using his death to basically promote this Catholic Knights of Malta Templar Jesuit revival, whatever is happening in the United States. But at the time, I said he would have to convert because he was very much losing ground with his dispensational, foundation that he had built. And obviously he was groomed. I think he was definitely groomed. If you look at his history with the people around him, he was definitely groomed, but the direction he was going in was not compatible with the Catholic New World Order that was on the horizon. So I'm like, he has to convert. He'll have to convert. He was very friendly with Catholics. He was doing lots of Catholic things. He was very friendly about the Pope. He was, giving the Pope, nothing but accolades. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, maybe he was trying to convert and they basically said, listen, this is going to be the thing. You have to convert. And he started to pivot away from his Jewish donors. And maybe the Jesuits just let the Jews kill him because it would suit their agenda. I don't know. Obviously, it's such a convoluted web of things, but it seems that he was on his way towards converting to Catholicism because there's a lot of people who have alleged that. And there's a lot of evidence to that regard, too.
Candace Owens is pushing that big time. That he really started to really like the Virgin Mary there at the end, and well, they said the same thing about George Washington.
Yeah.
I don't. There's a lot of stuff there that just does not. The dots don't connect, and I don't think Charlie Kirk was anywhere close to converting to Roman Catholicism. I don't even think he was very close. I think he kind of expressed in some of his little gatherings there with the people that listen to him. Mostly, I guess, a lot of college students and stuff like that, college age stuff, folks. He never expressed a great love for Catholicism. I think Candace Owens is the one that is expressing great love for Roman Catholicism and militant Roman Catholicism, and even she's come out with some comments that the Protestant reformers and that were probably wrong and stuff, and were troublemakers and stuff. You're getting a lot of papal Rome's propaganda is being thrown at the American public especially, but at the Europeans also, but especially the Americans are getting a lot of this stuff that's making us look like we're going back to the time of, like I said, Charles V, at the time of the Protestant Reformation, and that he wanted everyone to worship in a Catholic way, and that. And there's some very, very suspicious people around the current president right now. J.D. Vance is a very, very militant Roman Catholic. The vice president, J.D. Vance,
he's all about the common good.
A lot of Catholic connections, and they think he may be being groomed because Trump is not getting any younger.
Right.
Trump is not getting any younger, and they think that. And J.D. Vance met Pope Francis, I think, shortly before Pope Francis
A lot of
died.
memes about that one.
Yeah, had a meeting set up, and I don't think if you or I asked for an audience with the Pope that we would get one right away.
Yeah,
But
definitely not.
some people seem to have a lot of pull in that direction, and it's because of the Roman Catholic connections that they have, or the Roman Catholics that are behind them, or that are promoting them. And right now, Candace Owens is pushing the narrative is that Charlie was getting ready to convert to Catholicism. I don't buy that at all, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. It's hard with the hard part with all of this, because you're right that Candace Owens is very much pushing that narrative, and we know that they're very quick to appropriate a situation if it's favorable to the Catholic Church. They're really quick to appropriate it to themselves, because Charlie Kirk now looks like a martyr, especially the obvious narrative with Charlie Kirk is so obviously flawed. It has so many holes of logic in it. From the gun to the shooter to the angle, it's all just a bunch of BS. So that's very obvious. And a lot of people are figuring it out that it was actually the Mossad that is connected to Charlie Kirk's murder, because he was, in the last 6 months before his death, he was definitely realigning himself away from the Jewish interests and, the Zionist kind of stuff. So there's this narrative that the Catholic Church and the Catholic people like Candace are very quick to jump on, which is like, hey, Charlie Kirk was becoming a Catholic, and it's those dirty Jews that were basically killing him. So you see, he found the truth in Catholicism, and so they're very quick to weaponize it. There's that. There's also the fact that I've read a lot of testimonies from a lot of different other people of the situation. So they could be lying. That's possible. I don't know if they are. There's also the fact that a lot of these people, I think, are secret society members regardless. I think Charlie was a secret society member. I mean, you see a lot of the hand signs that people do. He's got a lot of pictures doing those things.
Yeah.
He's you don't get to ride on Air Force Two, and you don't get to be, what was he, like 31, 33, something like that. And he's got like a $6 million house in Paradise Valley. I mean, nobody does that. Like at 18 years old, for some guy to come up to you and say, hey, you're a really smart guy, I think you should start a movement. These people are groomed. And if you're groomed,
Yes.
that means you're part of the club one way or another. And so I think Charlie was definitely, so that's the problem to me. That's the problem, is that these people are ultimately part of this shadow system. And as you know, just like The Art of War, which was written by the Jesuits, these people could be killed at any point in time. Everybody's got a knife to each other's throat. If it suits the agenda, then okay, let's do it. Okay, if I need to flip from one side to the other, I'll do it. So it's so hard to tell sometimes with these situations, because you're dealing with the devil's system, and the devil's system is schizophrenic. So.
But I've noticed that throughout history, is that the Jesuits start inventing or rewriting, we should say, history of people that they've assassinated, such as Abraham Lincoln. They'll publish books about Lincoln that try to portray him in the dirtiest, rottenest light that they can do so, and even make up names. There was a guy named Johnson that wrote a book about Lincoln. It was very good. And so if you tried to buy that book, they came out with another guy whose name was Johnstone or something, and or they'll publish a book by the same title. That's a different book. Like there's a very good book by a guy named D.H. Broadbent, who wrote a book about the positions of Arminianism and Calvinism and that. And he took sort of like the middle road, E.H. Broadbent. It was called The Pilgrim Church. Pretty good book. But who came out with a book by the same title? Pilgrim Church. the Catholics did, and it was a totally different book about a Roman Catholic. So they're very, very sneaky, tricky in that way, in changing coming out with a book by the same name as a good book that you might have wanted, and you buy the book because they have the same title, but you're not getting the same book. Be very careful, everyone, because they'll often put a book out there with the same title of the book that you're looking for, and it's totally from the other side. It's from the Roman Catholic side. But I know they've... Go ahead.
I was going to say, I've noticed that with movies. There's like a movie title for, everything nowadays. So if you're searching something, a movie comes up. I'm like, I don't want this movie. I want, like the book that I'm looking for, or, whatever. I'm like, I've wondered often, I'm like, is this like a deliberate, thing that when they think of these movie titles, that would be an interesting conspiracy.
Yeah, I've just noticed that it's like I said, 1984 on steroids. The book 1984 is The Ministry of Truth is out there, and they're either muddying up the waters of on certain issues or stuff, or they're publishing something that's totally different, and you're buying something that you're not getting what you think you're buying. They're masters of deception, and I think that's the bottom line that we can leave the listeners with, is that these people, like I said, they don't show up in a devil suit or something. They show up and wearing somebody else's, pretending to be someone else or something, or that they become something that they're not. But then they change the narrative after the guy dies, or allegedly dies, or allegedly is killed, and you got to be very careful. You got to be very careful, because you can be deceived by photoshopping and everything else. Has gotten so good is that we sometimes joke about this, but it's true. Is my cousin and I both talk about it. He's grew up Roman Catholic. Is that they can have a video of you murdering, chopping the head off 50 babies, and they can publish that on the internet. And people will swear, I saw, pick a name, Darryl Eberhart, cutting off 50 babies' heads. I saw it, and it's for sure real. I saw it. What are you going to do?
Yeah, with AI now, that's going to be like very much the case in the next, I think, year or two, especially when AI becomes so... But like you said, I think it's a problem reaction solution. I think that these things are being allowed to permeate culture and society so that there's a problem to which the solution is going to be to create some sort of digital identity system, so that they know when you're signing on to your computer, who made what post, when did you post it, what did you do. It's all by design, so they have to create a problem to which they can introduce that solution to.
I'm already seeing it on my new computer. I'm seeing that it's almost like they're sitting there reading my mind while I'm sitting there. I
Maybe they are.
Things about the Philippines, because I have a friend over in the Philippines, and all of a sudden I'm start getting all these brochures. Travel to the Philippines. We have a special trip for you. It's like they're sitting inside your head right there as you're working at your computer. That's how good the AI, et cetera, has all gotten. But they can put one and one together very easily and come out with two. And when I worked in the intelligence community for 26 years, one thing I did notice is that the military-industrial complex, especially the intelligence community, they were minimum 10 to 20 years or more ahead of wherever the civilian population was with computers and everything. That's why I kind of laugh when I see people say, "Oh, get this for your internet or whatever. It's secure," and that. If we can take something that the Red Chinese or the Russians put out and elaborate algorithm in that, say a code or something, and we can break it in about 2 seconds with these massive computers that take up 2 or 3 floors or more underground. What do you think that you think you're going to come up with anything in the civilian world that's secure? I kind of laugh when I see that. When I see, oh, get this for your egrams or whatever. This is a secure system. It can't be broken. Baloney. They can break anything that they got. And if they can take the most sophisticated Soviet codes and break them in a couple seconds with their massive computers, do you think you're going to come up with something with a small private company that's going to outfox the intelligence agencies, whether Soviet, whether Russian or Chinese or whatever, or CIA? You think you're going to beat them? I don't think so.
Yeah, definitely not. What do you think of the current Pope? Some people may think that he's not the last one because he's still kind of doing some liberal things like Francis, but it seems to me like he is kind of the bridge builder that is synthesizing both sides of the dialectic. He's bringing the left and the right together. He's giving both of them some things that they each want. He's very ecumenical. He certainly has a very interesting title in continuation of the Leo the 13th before him, who basically wrote the foundation of communism, which is the Rerum Novarum. Yep. So it's a very, there's a lot of parallels. Like, Leo the 13th was right before the Industrial Revolution, or around the time, not before, because technically it started, I guess, in the 1700s, but around the time that the 1900s hit with the industrial boom and everything. So Leo the 13th was very significant, and Leo the 14th being right at the cusp of this AI takeover, which is going to create a lot of joblessness. It's going to create, again, the problem to which Catholic social teaching, which emerges from Leo the 13th, Rerum Novarum, it's going to create that solution being desired. And I think that's a very prophetically important thing, especially for the fact that Leo the 14th is also the first American Pope in history. If that tells you anything prophetically, I think that's pretty significant. So, I don't know. It seems to me like he's bringing together both sides. What do you think about him?
I think that the Jesuits have a official magazine organ called America, and I think that somewhere someone wrote something about him overseeing the finale or finish of the American Empire. I don't know. None of these, all of these people are compromised with tons and tons of evil, and someone has the goods on Pope Leo. I can guarantee it. And somebody, I don't think Pope Leo is at the very top. I think he's a figurehead.
Right.
And I think that the Black Pope, as he often has done throughout history, as often wants to be unseen. Just like Ledakowski was the Black Pope during World War II, who allegedly died of a broken heart because Hitler didn't win the war, and that. No, these guys, I think they're operating out of a pure evil, and nothing good is going to come out of it. And people just need to keep their eyes open and watch for those wicked curveballs coming down inside curve, outside curve, but they're never going to give you the truth, and you're always going to have to look behind the curtain to find out what's really going on. But no, I do not have warm fuzzy feelings about the future of the United States of America. I just don't have that feeling at all with what I see going on with the world of computers and artificial intelligence and everything. It's just going to make it so much easier for the massive surveillance 1984 on steroid system. It's just going to make it so much easier for them to track and trace everything, your every move, if not your every thought, very much. And by the way, the brain works on certain frequencies and everything, and that's why voice in the old days when they were intercepting voice at about a 3 kilohertz range or that today it's just it's like the difference between a computer you may have had 50 years ago and quantum computers today. It's that much of a difference, and I think the same thing can be said about artificial intelligence and all that. They're making such rapid advances that if I think the Lord Jesus Christ himself said that if he didn't return, nobody would survive. I think that mankind, through his own stupidity and ignorance and thinking that he can control everything, including weather, which he can to a large extent, and that he's going to create his own utopia for a small group of people who are going to live in an underground bunker in the Ural Mountains or in the Rockies or something. I don't think so. I think mankind is very corrupt, and for the most part, and he's got his comeuppance coming, and I don't think that even the people at the top think that think they are in control, that they really things can get out of control. Let's put it that way. Things can go different directions than even the people that are steering them hope to have them go.
Yeah, well, the people that steer all these things don't believe in a sovereign God, and so they're very easily deceived by the devil into thinking that maybe they can control it in the direction they want. And God is allowing them to be deceived to, accomplish his purposes, but they're going to be destroyed in the end. Did you hear that? Darryl?
Yeah, my heat kicked on a little while ago, and it's a little bit loud. The gas furnace that I have, which, by the way, they're probably going to go away from natural gas here soon, and everybody's going to have all electric everything. But
well, they need electric so they can keep track of what you're doing. So they can have a little smart house with a smart meter and smart this, smart that. So they can know everything you're doing.
Yeah.
How long do you think we have?
Say again?
How long do you think we have? Like, till the very
I'm not a prognosticator, and I wouldn't even dare to hazard a guess. I'm thinking that we have less than 2 years.
Oh,
That's
really?
what I'm thinking.
Okay.
But I know that I felt like I was going to die about 3 days ago, and that's how
I'm
bad
glad you
my
didn't. I'm glad you didn't.
stroke been getting. Um, I'm really enjoying this conversation, but eventually I'm going to have to hit the bathroom probably or at least take my little plastic urinal here and go to the bathroom because my bladder's pretty much shut down, and I think I'm being kind of killed prematurely, premature assassination by smart meters. I got 3 smart meters on the side of my house.
Oh gosh.
And right next to, very close to where I'm sitting right now, but 3 smart meters. And with their 5G, and I think they're into 6G, and who knows what.
Well, no worries.
They're not giving good health contributing type devices to my life.
Yeah, it's not a good idea to be sitting in those EMF fields all day. Those smart meters can be pretty bad. Well, no worries. Don't worry about it. We're coming up on 2 hours here, so we're pretty much, I would say, at the end. Just one more question for you. What would you have?
Sure.
What would you have people know from now until the end? What would be kind of something that you want to wrap all this up with and have people focus on from now until the end?
I'd say look for your wisdom from God. You need to get your wisdom from God. I don't recommend this guy. I don't like him, Alexander Scorby, but he reads the book of Proverbs. Well, he reads the entire Bible. The Old
he
and
reads the
New
KJV,
Testament,
right?
Alexander Scorby on compact disc, and I've been listening a lot to Proverbs from about Proverbs 3 to Proverbs 21. I think he was through maybe 27. I'm not sure, but I've been listening to that a lot, and there's a lot of wisdom in the book of Proverbs and in the Psalms. But I would seek my wisdom from the Bible. I would look at the examples in the Bible. And those things, we're told that these things are written as ensamples, Old English, as examples for us. They're written as examples for us to look and see where people went wrong and did wrong. And as good as King David was, and he was a man after God's own heart, King David committed adultery with Bathsheba, put her husband out in the front of the battle and pulled forces back and let him get killed. So we would call today, if he went to court, he would be convicted of being an accessory to murder. And of course, they don't convict people for adultery today. But the fact of the matter is that there's very few people in the Bible that don't have bad things written about them. One of the few is Prince Jonathan, the son of Saul, the first king of Israel, King Saul. He became very good friends with King David. Jonathan did. Not a bad word that I can read anywhere in the Bible about King Jonathan. We can learn from the people in the Bible, and we can learn from those examples. King Manasseh was one of the very worst kings that Judah ever had. I think one of the longest ruling ones. He ended up repenting near at the end of his life. But we're not told whether he ended up going to heaven or not. But the bad fact of the matter is that we can learn a lot from the examples of the people that are in the Bible. And I would say the greatest book of wisdom in the world is the Holy Bible. And I would just urge people to get into the Psalms, get into the Proverbs, and you can learn a lot from that, and you can learn from people's mistakes. If you're out in a minefield, you want to have a guy with the minesweeper ahead of you somewhere so that you don't step on a landmine. That's what the Bible does. The Bible shines a light on your path, is a lamp or a light to your path to help you from making a lot of the same mistakes that were made by other men and or women in the Bible. And that's my top recommendation that I would make, is that people put their trust in God, but put your trust in His Word. And I would say that that's the key thing that I would want people to take from it. And we have a God that created so much beauty. I've got a picture here on my a website right now of fall scenes. I love fall scenery, and I love my old motorcycle, my Honda 750 that I used to have, and all the rides I used to ride. And God has made a beautiful earth, and mankind, for the most part, has messed it up real big time. So that would be the top thing I would recommend, is that seek good people. The Bible tells you in Proverbs, seek good counselors, and seek people that are telling you the truth, and that are putting out good information, like Tudor here. You don't attach yourself to the wrong people, such as Candace Owens. I'm just giving an example, but anyway,
Yeah.
that you don't want to get to the people that are pushing whatever you want to call it, global agenda, New World Order agenda. It doesn't matter. Communism, fascism, Nazism, doesn't matter. What ism is being promoted? Seek your wisdom from God. That's what I would say. And I want to thank you, Tudor, for having me on, and I want to thank you for the excellent podcasts and videos that you have out that are out there, and you certainly do expose the Jesuits and the Knights of Malta and Papal Rome and Freemasonry and all the evils that are out there. We need to be following the command of Ephesians 5:11 of have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them, which means drag them to the light. Drag them, put the spotlight on them, and expose evil, and try to live righteously. And as you mentioned in your one, the ceremonial law didn't do away with moral law. We are to be living lives that we would, if God wanted to our house, that we would want Him to see us doing. So that righteousness, in my mind, my definition is righteousness is doing what is good and right in the sight of God. Period.
Yeah. Agreed.
So I want to thank you again for having me on, and I appreciate you buying the contraptions. And when I first saw your email, I thought,
man. The devil did not want this interview to happen, that's for sure.
I thought, does that say contraceptive or no? And then no, I realized
contraception.
I'm going blind.
Contraption.
My left eye, I'm definitely going blind. So thank you for having me on your podcast. And
yeah, it was a pleasure.
If you want to close it out, and I can hang in with you a couple minutes if you want to talk offline.
Yeah, sure. We'll pretty much close it out. This is the end of the interview anyway, but you and I can chat a little bit afterwards. So thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Like I said, a lot of my memory has been erased, but I still can remember certain things. And by the way, last night, I was just thinking of all the Knights of Malta that were involved in the intelligence community and running the intelligence during World War II. You had a German Knight of Malta named Reinhard Gehlen, who helped set up, by the way, he helped set up the German intelligence on the Eastern Front, but he also helped set up the Mossad. Then you had a Knight of Malta, a Russian Knight of Malta named Prince Anton Turkel, who was running Russian or Soviet intelligence during World War II. Then you had a Knight of Malta named William Wild Bill Donovan, who had a two-star general that wasn't under anyone. He was running everything by himself, running U.S. intelligence, not reporting even to Eisenhower.
Yep.
He was his own boss, William Wild Bill Donovan, William Joseph Donovan, Knight of Malta. And then you had a Knight of Malta named James Jesus Angleton, who sat the Vatican desk and the Israeli desk at the Central Intelligence Agency.
It's all one
These
big
guys
club.
are all over the map. The Jesuits and Knights of Malta, and a lot of them are the wealthy, powerful European families, by the way, not just the Venetians and that, but a lot of them, these guys are the old bloodlines or whatever, powerful bloodlines.
It's
European
all one big
bloodline.
club. You've heard of that one? It's all one big club, and you ain't in it.
Yeah.
By there was a comedian. Oh gosh, what's his name? He was a
Yeah, I'm amazed that my bladder held out as long as it did. I have my little plastic urinal out here, and I was afraid that I was going to have to hit it pretty soon. So,
well, I'll let you go to the bathroom. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, Darryl. I'm glad we got to finally do this after all these technological adventures.
I hope it works out, and God bless you, and thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for having me on. God bless you.
God bless you too. You take it easy.
Okay, bye now.
All right, bye-bye.